bats in the middle. It's in the 7th inning. Hit it. Pimp will do the pimp job, but don't walk. Let's not walk halfway further down the line. Come on, respect the game. I know he does, but at that moment right there, he didn't. At the end of the day, I think we'll have the last laugh.
It's the Orioles on Masson from Toronto, Ontario. It's the Orioles and Toronto Blue Jays. Tonight it's the middle game in this 3-game series. And hi, everyone. I'm Jim Hunter. And, oh, yes, there are fireworks between these two teams. And there is wonder, will there be any carryover whatsoever from the emotion of last night? Of course, Jason Garcia with that errant pitch behind the back of Jose Bautista. Bautista's subsequent home run. And then from the Orioles standpoint, Jose's antics running the bases, that all led to the confrontation, the shouting match between Adam Jones and Bautista. Jones feeling he needed to protect his 22-year-old teammate. But that aside, the game was won by the Jays last night because of starting pitching. Mark Burley was outstanding. He got the win. And Bud Norris was tagged for 9 earned runs in just 2 1/3 innings. It's yet another start of an underachieving staff early on in the year. But the Orioles are confident this group will turn it around, and their reference point is last season. Remember a year ago, the Orioles starting rotation got off to an almost equally slow start. Through the same number of games, 14. Last year, the staff had won only 4. This year, 5. And they had lost 7. ERA was a little better. They had a few more innings pitched. But the earned runs allowed identical to this year, and the walks a little bit less. But let's not forget, the same rotation that started off slow last year, started off slow this year, went on to win 68 games last year. And Mike Bordick, when you look at the starting rotation, it's easy to understand why the Orioles are confident. It's the same 5 guys.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and Buck Showalter talks all the time about track record. These guys have had experience in the past. They really came through last year, and it was the starting pitching that carried them into the postseason, actually walking away with the division. So, last year in April, they struggled a little bit. It was a 500 ball club. They actually were 500 all the way through May. So it isn't a surprisingly slow start. You'd wish that they'd get off out of the gates, I guess, a little bit quicker than they have. But this team is resilient. They know how to bounce back. And tonight, they're going with their ace, believe it or not, who did not win a game last April. It's Ubaldo Jimenez, who's turned things around. He's given up just 1 hit in 10 2/3, but his start against the Blue Jays was phenomenal. 7 strong innings, just the 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 walk for Ubaldo, and 8 punch-outs. His key is getting that 2-seamer right there over the plate early. He's got good movement. It's not as powerful as it was in the past. His fastball's in the high 80s, low 90s right now. But his job is to get ahead with that 2-seam fastball, either pitch to contact early in the count or just to get ahead and then go for the splitty or the slider for the strikeout pitch.
Well, it's interesting that last year Ubaldo was the inconsistent starter. Tonight the Orioles are looking for him to be the starter. It's the Orioles and Blue Jays from the Rogers Center. Lineups at first pitch are coming up. your low fare now at southwest.com and by your local Mercedes dealership. Another overcast day in downtown Toronto, but we are indoors, climate controlled. The roof is closed as the Orioles and Jays play the second game in this 3-game series. Here's a look at the Southwest Airlines starting lineup. Brought to you by Southwest. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Diaza, Paredes, and Chris Davis in the number 3 spot. Good numbers on the year head-to-head against the Jays. Jones, Snyder, Machado with Flaherty at second. Joseph and Cabrera for the O's.
And let's take a look at Aaron Sanchez's pitch arsenal this season. The fastball, he likes it 85% of the time. Why not? He can rush it up there in the mid to high 90s. He can sink it. He's working on a cutter. He's got a rising four-seam fastball as well. Pretty good curveball and change. See his numbers, though. Very slow start, 6.23 earned run average. Command has been an issue. Limited time right now out there. Just 8 innings work. Already has 5 walks on the season.
Just 22 years old. He is a rookie. And 1-1 on Diaza. Alejandro did not play in the game last night. He is 0 for 11 on the road trip. And over a longer stretch, just 2 for his last 19. And that is foul down the third base line.
Diaza greeted Sanchez's first major league start in Baltimore back on April 11th with a home run to start the game off. So Diaza right back at the top of the order tonight.
And he got him off speed pitch. Diaza swings through it. So a strikeout to begin the game as Sanchez with that power arm gets him off speed.
A very young pitcher, just 22 years of age. This is his third major league start. Last year rushed to the big leagues out of the pen. He can really spin it. Nice breaking ball there to get Diaza. Take a look at the Blue Jays defense behind Sanchez. Goins playing left field tonight. Pompey and Pilar will join him in the outfield. Reyes and Travis up the middle with Donaldson and Smoke on the corners and Martin behind the plate. Pilar, some gold glove type plays here in the early going this season. Robbing Adam Jones last night, a beautiful diving play.
Jimmy Paredes did not play last night. He's back in there. He's been hot since rejoining the O's. He has hit in all 3 games, 6 for 13 since coming back from the disabled list. And a ball outside. Well, Sanchez, a first-round draft pick of Toronto back in 2010. He was the 34th pick overall. He was a compensation pick for the Blue Jays losing free agent Marco Scutaro. And that is certainly a trade they would make any day of the week. A young arm with power potential for an aging infielder.
Yeah, they really love this guy's stuff. I mean, pretty obvious. Last season had really good success for this team out of the bullpen. Converted him over to the starter. Some injuries once again forces the Blue Jays to make some moves. I think ideally they'd like Sanchez to be in the pen again and just develop a little bit more before becoming a true starter. But he definitely has the stuff. A slow start, like we mentioned, to this season. Command problems as he walks Paredes right there. It takes a little while to figure things out. His last start was a little bit better than obviously his first start against the Orioles. His last start he went 5 1/3, gave up the 3 earned runs, but did have the 3 walks.
So he puts a man on for Chris Davis. Davis in the number 3 spot tonight. Buck has been flip-flopping Davis and Jones depending on the opposing team's starter. Last night it was a lefty, so it was Adam batting ahead of Davis. Tonight it is reversed.
Yeah, Davis has had his share of success off Sanchez. He also hit a home run in that first game facing Sanchez on April 11th, and he took him deep when Sanchez was out of the pen last season.
A 1-0 on Davis. And again outside, good patient at bat here. Chris 5 for 19 on the trip, including a home run. Paredes held there by Justin Smoke at first. Shift is on against Davis. Real good move there by Sanchez. Sanchez drafted in the 2010 draft. The Orioles that year selected Manny Machado with the 3rd overall pick. That was the same draft. Sanchez out of high school in Barstow, California. Swing and a miss by Davis, 2-1.
I can see the movement that he possesses. He can throw the two-seamer. In his last start, he started mixing in a cut fastball. Take a look at the Nissan pitch track, losing that second pitch up and away, but trying to stay hard in to Chris Davis.
And a good swing and a foul back, 2-2. Well, here's the one area Chris is hoping to cut down on, but has not been able to so far, leading the major leagues in strikeouts.
Yeah, the 22 strikeouts to lead the way. Now, Chris Davis working hard. We've seen him use the whole field here in the early going. I mean, he could be pretty close to a 300 hitter if he wanted to.
Paredes runs. The throw is off the mark. Jose Reyes able to glove it to save the throw from going into center field. So Paredes with a steal. He's at second with one down.
Nice jump right there by Paredes. Sanchez a little bit slower to the plate. Wayne Kirby recognizing that. A throw taking Reyes up the line. See the quick release, but there it goes sailing up the line a bit. Paredes in there safely.
Back-to-back 3-2 counts delivered by Sanchez. And it's high ball 4, so back-to-back walks. So how about this for dramatics? 2 on and 1 down, and here comes Mr. Jones. Adam last night very vocal in the Orioles clubhouse, and the fans are letting him have it. He felt the need to protect his 22-year-old teammate, and he did so. There's Jose Bautista, not in the lineup tonight. Might be his 2 for 29 against Ubaldo. It might be the strained shoulder that he's been dealing with.
Yeah, he may have aggravated that shoulder last night when he tried to throw Delmon Young out at first base on that base hit to right field.
Sitting with Edwin Encarnacion. Adam takes outside. Let's get a look at our American Standard, who's hot and who's not. And Adam Jones is as hot as anybody in baseball.
Oh, he sure is. I mean, red hot. In 4 games versus Toronto this season, 9 for 14, a couple home runs and 5 RBI. And Russell Martin in 3 games against the O's, 0 for 8 with his 4 punch-outs. He's off to a slow start this year, hitting just 132. Last season with the Pirates, Martin hit 290. So expect his bat to come around for this team.
American Standard, who's hot, who's not. Celebrate the season with the American Standard All-Star event. Visit MidAtlanticComfort.com for amazing rebate and financing opportunities. Russell Martin requesting time, goes out to talk to his young pitcher. Adam Jones, how about 10 for 20 on the road trip? A 500 batting average with a home run and 5 RBIs. He has 14 ribbies in his last 11 games. Chance to get the Orioles on the board here in the first. Line drive caught by Smoke. Throw back to second. There's a double play. How about that? He was wide of the bag with the right-hander up. Adam hit a hard line drive, and instead of a base hit, it goes as an inning-ending double play. So a couple of walks. The Orioles can't score. We'll head to the bottom of the first with the Blue Jays coming to bat. Tuesday here at Rogers Center. Orioles rally short-circuited by that play by Justin Smoke. Here's the Blue Jays lineup. Reyes in the leadoff spot. Devin Travis back in the lineup. He'll bat second. He has been hot over the Blue Jays' last 5 games that he has played in. Donaldson, Encarnacion, and Smoke. Martin, Pompey, Pilar, and Goins with Bautista on the bench.
And here's a look at Ubaldo Jimenez's pitch arsenal this season. The fastball 71% of the time. Boy, has he gone to that early. That good two-seam fastball. Great movement. He's using it to get ahead, and that is really the key to his success. Breaking ball 17% of the time, and a good changeup. That's his strikeout pitch. Nothing on the board for earned run average, and just 1 hit given up in his 10 2/3 innings of work.
And he gets ahead of Reyes, 0-1. Reyes back in the lineup. He's playing with a cracked rib. He is batting right-handed, even though Ubaldo is a right-hander on the mound. The switch hitter, the rib bothers him batting left-handed. So to stay in the lineup, he'll just bat from this side of the plate until the rib heals further. Now, Ubaldo, one of the questions tonight, Mike, is will he be too strong? He was ejected in a start Friday at Boston, lasting just 3 2/3. It's regular rest, but he had a shortened start because of the ejection.
Right. Well, I don't know that Ubaldo's too concerned about that. I think Ubaldo's feeling really confident right now, and he has to step up. I mean, this is the day that Dave Wallace, Buck Showalter hoped that Ubaldo Jimenez becomes the guy, because the Orioles starting pitchers have really been struggling lately.
Well, how about that start? Reyes chases Reyes, staring out at him as if he didn't know Ubaldo had that pitch.
Well, nice job getting ahead. Take a look at the Nissan pitch track. He's working up and away, and then drops the nasty split finger on Reyes. I mean, a great contact hitter, gets him out in front, and it just dive bombs at the end.
All right, now in our open, you called Ubaldo's split-fingered fastball a splitty.
Yeah.
Now, is he allowed to use that term? That's Miguel Gonzalez's term for him. Are they allowed to share splitty?
Hey, this staff stays together. You know, they watch each other pitch. I guess they use the same pitches, so I guess I'll have to clarify that tomorrow. I'll find out if Miguel let him use the
Does Miguel
splitty.
have a copyright on the
Right.
splitty? You know, are there T-shirts in the future? 2-0 on Devin Travis. What a start he is having. Tied for 3rd in the league in RBIs with 12.
Yeah,
24-year-old rookie.
He has been impressive. Only played as high as Double-A last season. And he had an impressive spring. There was some concern about his defensive ability. That was really the mark on him. They always said great offensive player as he was coming up through the minor leagues. They were concerned about defense, but I was talking to manager John Gibbons. Look at him right there. Says this guy is as solid as he's seen. He turns a double play. He hangs in there. He's not afraid of contact. So he's pleasantly surprised with how Devin has turned out here for this team.
Played in college at Florida State. That's a fine program. And there's a strike. Travis thought he had ball 4. Mike DeMuro thought otherwise.
Well, good hitters count. Ubaldo makes a quality pitch down and away. See that good two-seam action, 91 miles an hour. Seen so many hitters give up on that pitch, but there's so much late life coming back over to.
Lifted to right, and it's in for a base hit. Played on a hop by Diaza. So a 1-out single for Travis, who stays hot.
Nice piece of hitting right there. Let's take a look at the Orioles defense tonight behind Jimenez, Snyder, Jones, and Diaza in the outfield. Cabrera and Flaherty up the middle. Machado and Davis on the corners, and Caleb once again behind the plate. Snyder a little trouble in right field last night. Try his luck in left field, and Diaza in there with his recent success off Sanchez, and see if he can solidify that right field spot.
Here's Josh Donaldson, who was off to a real good start in his first year in Toronto. Traded to Toronto over the offseason. Wrote a first to keep Devin Travis close. Donaldson last year with Oakland, 29 home runs and 98 RBIs. The year before, he hit 24 home runs and drove in 93. And a breaking ball for a strike. The Blue Jays are certainly hoping that that consistency came with him from the Bay Area.
Well, he has been the most productive offensive third baseman in the game in the last 2 seasons. Tremendous impact on teams offensively. You just talked about his home run production, but he's off to a tremendous start here with Toronto.
Runner goes, throw to second is too late. So the throw on the shortstop side of the bag. Flaherty tried to swipe. And the first steal of the year for Travis. First in his big league career. He's at second with one down.
Well, Ubaldo, who has been working on being quicker, and that was pretty quick to the plate, but can't beat the speed of Travis there. Nice jump. Pretty good throw by Caleb. Getting in there safely. Flash puts the tag down.
Count is 0-2 on Donaldson. A little bit high. Of course, Donaldson has been doing it all around with the batting average and getting on base and the power and the run production. Dangerous hitter in this spot with a runner at second. And he got him. Oh, big out for Ubaldo.
Yeah, really tough to judge that split finger, and Donaldson can't get to it. Didn't have as much dive as it did to Reyes. This one actually hangs up there. Donaldson thinking it's going to drop a little bit more. Stays true up at the top of the zone for another strikeout.
So 2 Ks in the inning. Runner at second for Encarnacion, who broke out of it against the Orioles last night. He hit 2 home runs in the game. His 15th multi-home run game as a Blue Jay. 4 home runs now on the year, although he's off to a slow start with the batting average at .218. There's Travis at second. And you talk about teammates combining. How about home runs by current teammates? Orioles, Blue Jays, and Angels. Some big names on this list.
Yeah, Chris Davis and Adam Jones have been quite a dynamic duo with 213. But the Blue Jays, Encarnacion and Batista, right behind them with 210. And the Angels, Trout and Pujols, they're throwing up 174. So power numbers right there. And in the last couple of years, Orioles have the advantage.
Bounce to third. Machado thought about tagging Travis. Instead takes the sure out at first. And Ubaldo works out of it. Jays strand a runner at second. We'll head to the second. No score. $100 for being selected, and will win $500 more for every Orioles home run hit tonight. You can play baseball bucks scratch-offs and win up to $50,000, or enter non-winning tickets for a chance to be the contestant of the game. Visit mdlottery.com/baseball. Ubaldo Jimenez talking with Caleb, maybe about the delivery on the pitch that Travis stole second base.
You know, so important to have that kind of communication, and we're witnessing Caleb Joseph kind of develop here, staying on top of the starting pitchers. Got to be on the same page.
Travis Snyder takes strike one. Sanchez got out of a jam in the first after walking 2 on the line drive hit by Adam Jones, caught by Justin Smoke. And a strike in the inside corner. So quickly 0-2. Machado on deck, then Ryan Flaherty against Aaron Sanchez in the second.
See that good life on Sanchez's fastball.
Got him. 3-pitch strikeout.
This ball's got some pretty good movement too. That thing cut inside, 85 miles an hour. And it just takes off under the hands of Snyder. The effective pitch there for first out.
Well, he definitely has strikeout stuff. 2 Ks already to go with 2 walks, and that's kind of his MO. Outstanding stuff, but erratic command, and ball 1 to Machado. Manny at 167. He is 3 for 17 on the trip, but he does have 4 RBIs. He leads the Orioles now, Mike, with 3 sac flies.
And that's good. I mean, it's good for Manny's confidence as well. Saw him lay down a bunt the other day. Now, Manny's hit in some tough luck here in the early going. He's hit some line drives right at people. And here are good hitters count, but showing good patience.
By the way, we were wondering before the game when the lineup cards were exchanged if the umpires would issue any kind of warnings before the game to avoid anything reoccurring from last night. And there's a 4-pitch walk after a 3-pitch strikeout, and we didn't see any gestures as if they did. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't verbalize it. Einar Diaz represented the Orioles tonight, bringing the lineup card out, so we have no idea if they did issue a warning or if they didn't issue a warning.
Well, I think you kind of hope that you just let that game go. All right. It was a tough game. Emotions going. Of course, these two teams are going to be battling in the East. And when you play teams so many times, they have to play them 19 times. And they've done it over the past few years. I mean, both these teams want to win the East. You try to flex your muscle a little bit. And sometimes it just inopportune times. I think that blowout game, you know, Batista was showing up the Orioles on that home run as he stayed in the box, but
double play ball. Travis to Reyes, back to first, and they get Flaherty and a bang play. So the walk again does not hurt Sanchez as Flaherty bounces into an inning-ending double play. So a walk and none left. We'll head to the bottom of the second here at Rogers Center. Bang play at first gets the out. Blue Jays come to bat. We have no score.
Season, and you know, you expect the offense to be powerhouse, and it has been. The high batting average and the home runs, it's the starting pitching that separates it. You see the ERAs, the starters ERAs at 14.40 for the Orioles, and the overall earned run average very high, so they have to get that down if they want to even this up. Of course, last season the Orioles won the season series 11 games to 8, so they have that in their favor. They just have to play a little bit better baseball.
Ubaldo allowed a hit but no runs in the first. Here is Justin Smoak leading off, and he'll take low 1-0. Smoak in his first year with Toronto, an unusual offseason for him. The Mariners put him on waivers to clear a spot in their 40-man rosters. He skies it to left. Snyder in on the ball. And he will put it away for the out. And Smoke came to Toronto, and then they non-tendered him. So they claimed him on waivers and then just let him go. But then they went back to him and said, well, we'd like to re-sign you as a free agent. And he said, oh, okay. And he signed. But normally you don't see that. You don't see a team claim a player and then, yeah, we don't think you're worth that much. We're going to non-tender you.
All right. Well, he has a pretty good opportunity right now.
Matt Wieder's high school teammate. Right
yeah.
there.
Smoke, one of those guys that I think so many teams expected so many big things out of him. He's hoping he can really get his career going here in Toronto.
Here's Russell Martin, who is trying to find his stroke. He signed the huge offseason free agent contract to come home. That one was high and tight. Well, Martin thought so.
Yeah, right.
You heard him. Maybe he was looking for something else.
Yeah, well, you know what? In this ball game, Ubaldo has been known to have erratic command. Last season, huge walk rate, over 70 walks. And Sanchez, even the young pitchers, had command problems too. So can't expect them to be pinpoint. And they both have great life on their pitches.
Sanchez on the bench. He doesn't even look 22.
No kidding.
2-2, 1 out, nobody on. We have no score in the second. A little bit low ball 3. Now, Mike, shouldn't this be illegal? I mean, he's got the Blue Jay blue, but what's going on with that? What is that, chartreuse? New Blue Jay color? Popped up, center of the. I'm told it's lime green, by the way. I made up chartreuse. Chris Davis calls off Caleb Joseph, and Caleb alertly gets out of his way. I wouldn't want Chris Davis coming on me like that.
No, nice job by Chris Davis. That's what you're supposed to do. Try to take him away from the catcher. Better angle for Chris, and hustled all the way in to get that second out.
Ubaldo, 2 outs and nobody on, trying to get a clean inning. Here's Dalton Pompey, another Canadian playing for the Blue Jays. Outside. Pompey, switch hitter. He was out early today. The Orioles took early batting practice, not the full team, but there were some players that came out to get some extra swings in. And that finished about 3 o'clock. And right after that, Pompey went out to center field with his outfield coach. And he was working on the bounces off of this turf. Even the Blue Jays playing home here, they're still getting used to this new turf. Ground ball pulled foul. They were out there for about 20 minutes. And then Steve Tollefson, the former Oriole, who's now a utility man on the Jays, he went out and joined them. Yeah,
well, Steve Tollefson's going to be all over the place. Pompey, the young center fielder, wants to get more experience. He doesn't want to cost this team by mistakes. He has had some problems here in the early going defensively. So he just wants to clean it up a little bit.
Well, how about that inning? Strike 3 called. Mike DeMuro rings up Dalton Pompey, and Ubaldo Jimenez retires the side in order. We're through 2. The pitchers are in control. Hertz come to bat, no score. Miller time later in tonight's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. Baldo deep in thought on the bench. 1 hit for 2 innings, just 29 pitches to get through those 2 innings. Trying to be the stopper for the Orioles in this game.
Boy, do they need that.
Yeah, Birds have lost 2 in a row, and they are 2-3 on the trip. Tonight and tomorrow to go before heading home to see the Red Sox on Friday. And here's the rookie Aaron Sanchez going to work. 28 pitches. He had a 9-pitch second inning. The double play ball erasing the 1-out walk.
Boy.
Whoa! And there's the catcher, and it goes over the head of the catcher.
Last year they threw behind Caleb Joseph's head. Led to some problems. That fastball appeared to get away. See Martin setting up inside. You know, when we talk about, I mean, getting hit by a baseball has been in the game forever, but it's when you're throwing up around the head and neck area, that's when there's a lot of concern. That's when tempers start to really flare. You hope for Sanchez's sake that one just got away, and Caleb's as well.
And if you're Caleb, you hope you get on and score, and it becomes an earned run.
Right. Well,
and that's how you get back at it.
Caleb's riding a 7-game hit streak right now, so he's seeing the ball very well.
Well, 3-0 with Cabrera on deck. And a strike taken all the way. You know, the Blue Jays have every right to think that Jason Garcia threw that pitch behind Bautista on purpose last night. Orioles have every right to think that Sanchez just sent the message because it's the catcher at the plate. The Jays could feel that he called that pitch with a rookie on the mound. But you like the poise that Caleb showed. He didn't show any emotion whatsoever.
Well, I don't think Caleb Joseph has enough time under Buck Showalter to be calling pitches to hit batters yet in his young career. And I don't believe that Buck Showalter would want Garcia to hit anybody because of the struggles that they've had with trying to keep arms fresh in that bullpen. I mean, it's been kind of a struggle here this whole road trip.
And he does work the leadoff walk. That is the 4th walk already. So the Orioles get the leadoff man on for the first time in this game. Well, tonight is your final chance to join the Orioles in honoring last week's Jackie Robinson Day by bidding on one of the game-worn number 42 jerseys from last Wednesday's game. Just go to Orioles.com/auction. Each player and coach wore Jackie's number 42 that night. Now each jersey has been autographed and placed for auction. Now the proceeds will benefit the Baltimore Orioles Charitable Foundation and the Jackie Robinson Foundation. Bidding will close at 10 p.m. tonight. So if you want one of those jerseys, get online. Orioles.com/auction and make your bid. Everett Cabrera in the number 9 spot did not show bunt, takes a strike. Down and in, 1-1. Now, with a pitcher whose command is as erratic as Sanchez is, you probably won't see Buck bunting much early in this game. Why give up an out?
Well, you're right, but he also has talked about how nice this field is to bunt on. It really just dies out there. You can put it down on the turf. It's going to be a tough play for all the corner positions. Cabrera, a pretty good bunter.
Chopper. The pitcher has to make the play. Sanchez will flip to Smoke, so it'll have the same effect as a bunt as Caleb gets to second base with 1 down.
Sanchez last year, all of his bullpen work, he had a pretty good ground ball rate of 65, almost 66%. So you see the action he's getting on that 2-seam fastball. A lot of ground balls already in this game.
Second time in this game, Orioles have a runner at second base. And here's Diaz for his second at bat. Breaking ball outside. Interesting defensive alignment for Diaz. The second baseman Travis is well in the hole at second base, and you see Reyes, he's shading up the middle. He's on the shortstop side, but a huge hole on the shortstop side of the field.
Yeah, a lot of room over there. Of course, Donaldson has to respect the bunt.
Pulls it to Travis right where he had him played. Diaz is out and 2 away. Moving to third is Caleb Joseph. So it'll take a 2-out base hit or a mistake by Toronto to get that run in. Well, Jimmy Paredes happy to be in the lineup. Yesterday during batting practice, strange thing happened. Watch Paredes at third base. And we're talking about this new turf, and a baseball that was hit took a bad bounce right off the bat of Steve Pearce right here. And it hit him right in the neck.
Ooh.
Now, he wasn't in the starting lineup last night. It was available to pinch hit. But fortunate for him that it didn't hit him in the eye, didn't hit him in the mouth.
Yeah, he was down for a little bit. It was a little scary right there for Paredes and the Orioles.
Showing Richie Bansil's, it hit me right here. Left center field, that ball is carried. Back on it is Goins. That ball is back, and that ball is gone. Paredes does it again, and the Birds have the lead. Oh, is he hot right now? Paredes with an opposite field homer, his first of the year. And the Birds break on top 2-0 with a huge 2-out base hit.
Boy, beautiful swing by Paredes. And yeah, that walk did hurt Sanchez and the Blue Jays. Around to one of the hotter hitters for the Orioles, and he makes a pay.
So Paredes' first home run of the season. And Chris Davis now, and there's a base hit against the shift. Outstanding piece of hitting there by Davis. And speaking of outstanding piece of hitting, how about Paredes?
Yeah, even better. I mean, he waits on this ball, backs it up. He has that natural run as it goes out. Lefties can get extended. He stays on it. Boy, does he catch it on the good part of the bat. And that carries out to the left center gap.
And another $500 for our Maryland lottery contestant of the game, Valerie Guante of Essex. Here's Adam Jones now coming up. Adam robbed of a base hit and an RBI by Smoke at first base, his first at bat. Sanchez overthrows.
Adam nice and quiet in the box right now, seeing the ball well. He lined into that double play. It was a bullet the other way. So nice sign, using the whole field right now. Mistakes are being pulled, breaking balls being pulled, home runs, using the whole field. So Adam is on his game. Take a look at the Jeep inside the numbers, and Adam Jones is leading the way. Leads the American League with a .442 batting average, at 1.290 OPS, 23 hits, 16 RBIs, tied with Nelson Cruz from Seattle in the extra base hits, tied with Cruz and Cespedes. So Adam Jones on fire.
2-0 the count on him, 2 outs. Davis at first. And a foul. That ball was sailing outside, hit the shin guard of Russell Martin. Well, Sanchez survived 2 walks in the first. He survived 1 walk in the second. Does not survive the leadoff walk here in the third, as Paredes hits it out, and the Orioles get the lead.
Orioles pitchers know if you give teams too many extra opportunities, especially with those base on balls, it eventually will come back and get you. And here in the early going, it's gotten to Sanchez.
Sanchez has never won a game here at Rogers Center. Mike mentioned last year worked exclusively in relief, and this year, because of the injury to Marcus Stroman, he was inserted in the rotation. Outside ball 4 and another walk. That is 5 walks in 2 2/3 innings issued by Aaron Sanchez.
You see him trying to move that fastball there, the cutter that he's been working on, get a little more movement. He's got that 2-seamer that he sinks. Pitching coach Pete Walker out to settle his young right-hander down. Pitch count mounting here. A lot of times that's what you have to do. Just let the young guy, as the game starts to speed up on younger players, calm them down a little bit. Get him back into that smooth, easy delivery. So many young players get hurried and anxious. They start making mistakes, and leads to walks and more runs.
Well, this is a rematch. Sanchez faced Jimenez in that game April 11th at Baltimore that Ubaldo pitched the 7 solid innings. He lasted just 3 1/3, but in that game he only walked 2. Here's Travis Snyder, 2 on and 2 out. Line drive left field. Goins back on it, and he has it for the out. So Snyder hit it hard, but right at Goins, and the inning ends. But not before Jimmy Paredes goes opposite way. He hits it out, and the Orioles grab a 2-0 lead. whywaitintheer.com. Well, here's the breakdown of the Orioles starters on the year. 5 wins, tied for 11th in Major League Baseball. 5 losses, tied for 10th. But that ERA of 5.16, 24th out of the 30 teams, the 36 walks, second most, and the innings pitched 29th out of 30. So only one team has pitched fewer. 10 starts of less than 6 innings. That is most in the major leagues. And the Orioles starters, Mike, have 6 consecutive starts of less than 6 innings coming into tonight. The last starter to go beyond that was Miguel Gonzalez last week. Last week in his start, April 14th against the Yankees, he went 7 innings. There's Kevin Pillar, takes ball 1.
Yeah, they're really counting on Ubaldo to help stabilize the rotation, and it's got to start today. We saw last year, once the rotation started picking up, it seemed like they were just feeding off each other. One starter would have a good start, the next guy would come back, and they just keep passing the baton.
And again, the confidence in the staff, you hear Buck talk about it all the time. He's a track record guy, and these guys do have track records. Although he did say before the game, there's a ball hit towards the middle, hanging breaking ball, and Pillar didn't miss it. There's a leadoff single. The leadoff man on here in the third. But Buck was saying, yeah, if you have track records, you expect that you should be able to get back to that. Although in this game, a 15-win season of a year ago doesn't necessarily mean 15 wins will follow this year.
Right.
The game has a way of humbling you and having things even out.
Oh, I think these guys, they're familiar with each other, familiar with pitching coach Dave Wallace and Dom Cheedy. So, you know, they know what buttons to push. I think these guys, it's a really tight-knit group. They're trying to take care of each other. If they notice flaws, they try to stay on it as soon as possible. So they will be there, and I think collectively they'll all come around probably together.
So the tying run is at the plate. Second hit off Ubaldo. So he's now allowed 3 hits on the year. In his start against Toronto on April 11th, he went 7 innings, no runs on 1 hit. It was a Jose Reyes single. Pillar has 1 steal on the year. Jays already have 1 steal in the game tonight. And a bunt, but it goes foul. Again, on this turf, that is a real good idea, especially for a left-handed batter. The ball rolls out there and just stops.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we've seen that in batting practice. Buck has talked about it. Blue Jays definitely familiar with the turf, so a nice try right there by Ryan Goins. He picked up a couple hits in last night's ball game, so he's feeling pretty good in the box right now.
Runner goes, double pump, throw is late, goes into center field. Pilar didn't see it, so he can't advance.
Well, there have been some troubles containing the running game this year. Caleb Joseph last year so proficient at throwing out runners, here sailing up the line, and Cabrera and Flaherty both can't keep it in the infield. Fortunately, Adam Jones backing up. Nice effort there by Cabrera, jumping over Pilar to try to knock that ball down, but we've seen a couple errors, uncharacteristic errors of the catcher throws the ball not being able to keep it in the infield. And I know Bobby Dickerson, the infield coach, has had his talks with the middle infield, trying to get there soon enough so you can recognize the tailing throw and keep that ball in the infield.
0-2 on Goins. Time requested at the plate.
Ubaldo's pitch arsenal here this season versus lefties. Likes that fastball 67%, breaking ball 16, and the changeup at 17%. It's so good at starting that fastball out at the front leg and working itself back over the plate. There, a good fastball on the outside corner.
Fourth strikeout for the first out in the inning. The stolen base by Pilar, second in this game. The Orioles have now allowed 10 stolen bases on the year. They have caught just one runner. And this with a catcher who last year gunned down 40% of potential base stealers. There's Jose Reyes. Pilar at second with one away. There's a strike.
Nice job getting ahead with the split finger right there. One of the things that he's been working on is the ability to get ahead, and if he missed with that, he would have come back with the fastball to try to stay ahead. But here, mixing in the off-speed pitches, Reyes, what is going on right now? So nice split finger, then the slider.
Reyes should take the Yogi approach. Don't think.
Right.
He's obviously looking for a pitch, and Ubaldo keeps changing off on that and surprising him. 0-2 on him. Foul back just below us.
Maybe overthrew that fastball a little bit. 93 miles an hour, so real good velocity right there. But Caleb wanting that one off the plate. Get Reyes to reach out there, but it leaked over and got into that danger zone.
Remains 0-2 on Reyes. Pilar getting a good lead off second. A little bit low. Ooh. Of course, for Ubaldo, we all recall the struggles he had a year ago after the All-Star break. Some of that time spent on the disabled list, but he only made 7 appearances and made 4 starts after the All-Star break. But one of those starts was in the clinching game to wrap up the division title when he beat the Blue Jays with 5 strong innings. Well, that was a defensive swing.
Yeah, Reyes just took that one right out of Caleb's glove. And the slider kind of fooling him. Buckled a little bit and said, I got to do something. That's how you protect and keep an at-bat alive. Nice job by the veteran shortstop.
Now holding 1-2. A little bit low, 2-2. Ubaldo in his career has averaged just over 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's also allowed just over 4 walks per 9 innings, and that has been his problem in his tenure with the Orioles, the walks. He has not walked a batter yet in this game. He's allowed 2 singles. And he got him. And Jose Reyes is going to go back to the bench talking to himself. Whatever pitch he was looking for, Ubaldo threw something else and 2 men down.
Yeah, it stays up in the zone. Now, Ubaldo had to work for this little slider, and it's up and out of the zone, but they know when Ubaldo gets ahead, his stuff can be nasty. He just saw the nastiest split finger to start the game off, and here chases up and out of the zone. So there's going to be a lot of protecting, and Ubaldo's key is obviously to get ahead, and these hitters will expand.
Here's Devin Travis, and he'll take a strike. Travis singled and stole a base his first at bat. Bounce towards the hole. Love back Cabrera, and it falls down. Everybody safe. He knew that Travis could run, and as he gloved it, he went to make the turn before he had it, and it falls in.
Yeah, it would have been a tough chance to try to get Travis anyway. Great speed. Here the chopper, and Cabrera showing the range, kicks up. He might have been thinking about third base and not even going to attempt to throw to first.
So it's an infield hit. Runners on the corners as Pilar moves up to third. Travis at first. Orioles have now committed 9 errors. And they have committed errors in 4 consecutive games. Here's Donaldson. A little bit low, 1-0.
Yeah, they haven't looked as tight as we've seen them. 5 errors in the last 2 games, and that's a concern, obviously, because it's not the brand of baseball that Orioles fans have been used to here the past few seasons. I mean, very good defense. They have actually an historic defense a couple years ago. The fewest amount of errors when Manny Machado came onto the scene, but some base running miscues here in the early going. And a lot of times that stuff can be forgotten about if the team comes away with a win, or if somebody hits a couple home runs, you know, primarily the big win. But during the losses, they really get magnified, and it shows up. And everything combined has led to a couple tough losses.
1-1 on Donaldson, 2 men down. Foul back. Well, Buck was not happy about it. He mentioned it in our post-game interview last night, and then today he brought it up again. And one of the things that really bothered him was missing cutoff men, because that's something that fundamentally every outfielder should do as a matter of routine. And it leads to extra bases, it leads to extra runners in scoring position.
You know, there are so many things that you can control in the game of baseball, and some that you can't. Now, obviously, the errors that you make in the field, if the ball kicks up or you just don't see it off the bat right away, you can understand those kind of miscues. But if you have control of the baseball, outfielders are supposed to hit their cutoff men, and as far as base running, it's just understanding the situations and, you know, running the bases smartly. So, and we've seen some mistakes that have ultimately been costly, whether it be ending potential rallies or errors that have led to extended, you know, pitches and more runs across the plate. So yeah, Buck wants this team to clean themselves up, but the beauty of this team is they are so good at policing themselves. You know, Adam Jones, great leader. When J.J. Hardy's here and Matt Wieters, of course, they're missing their veteran presence, but they understand what brand of baseball they are all about, and you know it'll be there.
A little bit low, 2-2. So some extended at-bats in this inning. This will be the 7th pitch to Donaldson. Reyes had an extended at-bat before he struck out. Ubaldo now has 5 Ks in 2 2/3. Runners on the corners with 2 down. Again, a throw to first, trying to keep Travis close. He's the tying run.
Good speed over there with Travis, and Blue Jays offense, not only do they have power, but they do have speed, and we've seen that here in this series. And aggressive on the bases.
In the start against the Jays on April 11th, one of the things that jumped out at me with Ubaldo, he had 11 ground ball outs, 0 fly ball outs. Travis runs, and the pitch is skied to right. Easy play for Alejandro Diaza. And he's got it for the out, and the Blue Jays strand 2. So 2 hits, but 2 left. We are through 3 at Rogers Center. The Orioles have the lead. to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. By your Baltimore BMW Centers. And by PNC for the achiever in you. Beautiful Lake Ontario, downtown Toronto. Such a beautiful city here north of the border. Another sparse crowd. Like many teams with school still in session, they have some troubles on weeknights drawing folks. Whereas last night they had to compete with the NBA playoffs where they had a sellout for the Raptors, but the Wizards beat the Raptors. Yep. Aaron Sanchez has walked 5 and has allowed only 2 runs. Up and in, 1-0 on Manny Machado. Machado, Flaherty, and Joseph here in the 4th. Manny walked his first at bat. Ball 2.
Can't get that down there. A lot of times losing that fastball arm side. Now Martin, the veteran catcher, probably wants to set up in the middle of the plate and let that fastball work for him.
Chopper to third, gloved by Donaldson, and the strong throw gets him by a stride. So Machado's out and 1 away. On Friday, the Birds are back home. A 3-game weekend series coming up against the Red Sox. So don't miss it. This is the only weekend showdown at Oriole Park this summer between these two longtime AL East rivals. Good seats remain for each game, but they won't last long. So show your Birdland pride and come on out and paint the ballpark orange. For your tickets, 888-848-BIRD or online Orioles.com. Strike 1 to Ryan Flaherty. Flaherty bounced into an inning-ending double play in the second.
He's been swinging the bat well, riding a 5-game hit streak. Heated up at Fenway Park. For
yeah, Bobby's a little further away tonight. Last night he
well, if there was a runner on second base, he'll be right back down in that same position. But boy, oh boy, did he take one in the backside in last night's game.
Flaherty is really taking advantage of the playing time with Jonathan Scope on the disabled list. Mike mentioned a 5-game hitting streak. 8 hits in that streak. Strike 3 call. Breaking ball fooled him. Flaherty doesn't agree. Mike DeMuro is a pitcher's umpire tonight. 2 men down.
Wow, Flaherty thinking that breaking ball maybe broke in off the plate. It backed up a little bit and actually did catch that inner third. See it all over the plate there. A lot of times when you see the spin, especially if it starts off on that inner third, you just expect it to break down and in off the plate. That one held its head.
Caleb Joseph walked leading off the third after a pitch sailed over his head on the first pitch of the at-bat. He came around to score on the Paredes home run. Breaking ball bends in there. The third inning is the only inning in which the Orioles got the leadoff man on, and that's the inning they scored. A 2-out home run by Paredes. Chopped to third and foul.
We've seen some good breaking balls from Sanchez, but the problem is the inconsistencies with it. That he gets ahead and he leaves a breaking ball up in the zone, and Caleb just pulling that one foul. You really have to finish those pitches, work off the edges, the perimeters. You see Martin really making a strong suggestion there to get it down, leaving a couple pitches up. Get ahead, he wants it buried.
The 1-2. Popped up, shallow right. Travis out, Pilar in. Pilar calls him off. And he's got it for the out. The Orioles, for the first time tonight, go 3 up, 3 down. Mid-4th at Rogers Center, 2-0 O's. per game. Blue Jays have scored 83. They've allowed 67. So 10.7 average. And the Orioles are right behind them. 68 scored, 73 allowed for 10.1. Boston, the Yankees, and the Mariners. How about that? 4 of the 5 AL East teams combining for most runs per game.
A lot of big offenses, obviously, in the American League East, but we're a little bit skewed here. The Orioles, the last 2 games, have actually given up 20 runs and only scored the 7. So maybe that run differential switch back around. A couple tough losses for the Orioles as they look to bounce back here. Have a nice lead, 2-0, and Baldo looks really sharp.
Check swing, and it's a strike to Edwin Encarnacion. Encarnacion bounced out to Machado to end the first. He was 5 out of his last 18. Fastball misses. Baldo in search of his 2nd win on the year. And the Orioles need a big outing from him tonight.
I like the way he's throwing right now. There appears to be good confidence and command of all of his pitches. 36 strikes, just the 19 balls. So aggressive in the zone.
There's a strike. Encarnacion, now 32 years old, his 7th season with the Blue Jays. He's from the Dominican Republic, but he went to high school in Puerto Rico, so he was part of the draft. He was drafted by Texas in 2000. 11th season in the big leagues and 7th with Toronto. Works the count to 3-2. And he walked it. So this is the first walk of the game, and it's a leadoff walk here in the 4th inning in this 2-run game. Well, it's not too late to upgrade your summer with an Orioles partial season plan. The season plan members enjoy exclusive ticket savings, Major League Baseball's most flexible exchange policy, access to postseason tickets, plus many more orange carpet benefits. Now, 13 game plans are still available. For all the details, get online Orioles.com/season or just call 888-848-BIRD. Baldo's first walk of the game. 2nd straight inning leadoff man has been on. It's outside to Justin Smoak. Smoak flied out to left field his first at bat. Came in the game late defensively last night. Chris Davis holding the bag on Encarnacion. And then again, same pitch, same result. Breaking ball high, 2-0.
And just missing up and away here. Got to get him back in the zone. Really surprised he didn't try to get ahead with the fastball. That's kind of been what Ubaldo's been working on. And here in this situation with the big shift, that good movement that he has, he can get the good ground ball.
2-0, green light. Back it goes. It is over the head of Travis Snyder, and it bounces out of here. And opposite field, 2-run home run ties the game. So the leadoff walk hurts Ubaldo, and we are tied.
This shows the importance of getting ahead. Dangerous hitters in this Blue Jays lineup. Falls behind, and Smoak gets himself into a good hitters count. Takes advantage of the elevated fastball. Driving it the other way, much like Paredes.
The first runs allowed this year by Ubaldo. Strike one to Russell Martin.
Take a look at this swing from Smoak. Gets those arms extended. Two-seam fastball stays on the same plane when it's elevated. He gets to it off the top of the fence and out to tie the game.
So the Orioles, a 2-run home run in the 3rd, a leadoff walk to Joseph, a 2-out home run by Paredes. In this inning, a leadoff walk, and the next batter, Smoak, hits it out. Smoak is first of the year. Baldo seemed to rush on that pitch.
Slow it down a little bit. Nice job here. Taking a deep breath on his own.
Shows Button takes it high, does Martin. Father has struck out 5. He's walked just the 1, and that 1 has scored. And another walk. So 2 walks in the inning, still nobody out. And Dave Wallace is going to come out for a chat.
You got to believe Dave Wallace is going to come out and say, where the heck did the 2-seamer go? Get back to that pitch, get ahead with it. Still has the good movement on it. When it's located well, it's really hard to get to. Surprised he isn't working the lefties with it. He's been successful here in the early going of the season. Starting it inside, runs back in, getting some ground balls. That's his go-to pitch. Stick with the strength.
With nobody down, the Orioles will have to be aware of the bunt. Dalton Pompey at the plate has good speed. And Machado is going to creep in at third. Does square to bunt, and it's low. 1-0. Buck was saying before the game that on this turf, the sacrifice bunt takes on a new role because you could bunt for a base hit and have the turf help you out.
Yeah.
It slows it down.
It really does. It does not get out there at all into the field.
2-0. All of a sudden, Ubaldo cannot find the strike zone. No runs on 3 singles through 3 innings. 2 walks and 2 runs here in the 4th. Russell Martin runs really well for a catcher. He does have a steal on the year. The Orioles saw a lot of him when he caught for the Yankees. All 3-0. He walked Martin on 5 pitches. Now he's 3-0 on Pompey.
It seems like he's really trying to force the issue instead of being free and easy. To make the perfect pitch here, finds himself falling behind.
And a strike taken all the way. 3-1. He has had just 1 3-up 3-down inning. That was in the 2nd. Machado still in tight at third. Way outside, ball 4. Not even close. 3 walks in the inning.
Look at Ubaldo's wind up here. He's been trying to keep it efficient. Not a lot of movement to start. Right now, something just a little bit off. A lot of pitchers that have that arm stab deep in the back. The timing when it gets on top is hard to get it perfect. Ubaldo finding that right now in the 4th inning. Got to get that rhythm and timing back. A little ground ball here would help.
You saw Buck Showalter send in the play to Caleb Joseph, which play they'll have on in the event the Pilar lays down a bunt. The rotation play, which base will they cover? Breaking ball is high, 1-0. The Blue Jays team is a dangerous hitting team, and you just help them out with free passes. 3 extra base runners already in this inning on the 3 walks. Squared bunt, took a strike. Machado is in at third. He backs up a bit now. Up the middle at double play depth, and Caleb again signaling which play Buck Showalter wants on if Pilar bunts.
You see the corners in tight. Buck wants to play aggressive. He'll do the pinch play. Or both Manny and Chris Davis will charge. And Cabrera will go over to third to try to get that lead out.
Blue Jays are not helping Ubaldo out by chasing here. They're being very patient. Pilar singled his first at bat. He came in just 3 for his last 20. Double play ball through the legs of the runner. Second, back to first. There's a double play, and oh, did Ubaldo need that. right through the legs of Russell Martin running, and Cabrera, it did not bother him, and he played it nicely. So 2 men down.
Nice job by Ubaldo right there. Sometimes hard for a pitcher in these type of situations. Hitters squaring around, but you could see the movement from that angle. 6-4-3, very clean double play turn. Big double play for Ubaldo.
So 2 down. Martin ends up at third, and here's Ryan Goins. And again, you have to be concerned about the bunt with Goins up. He was going to swing, and he took a strike. As the year goes on, if this turf continues to play the same, that is going to be a big weapon for Toronto.
Yeah, they have some good team speed along with the power.
Broken bat bouncer at first. In between hop, Davis goes to the bag unassisted, and Ubaldo gets out of it without any further jabbage. What a comeback. 2 on and none down, double play and a ground out. Home run by Smoke ties it at 2. That ended that inning. Jays turned a double play to end the second. Jimmy Paredes, though, came up in the third. 2 outs, a man on, and a 2-run home run, which gave the Orioles a 2-0 lead. Smoke has tied it with a 2-run home run, so that's where we're at as we head to the 5th. And there's pitching coach Dave Wallace with Ubaldo Jimenez, who got himself out of a big jam. 2 runs were in, 2 on, and none out, and he did not allow another run. You see Dave mimicking the mechanics.
Yeah, trying to get the timing down on the mechanics, saying that front side's leaking a little too soon. That's what's causing the inconsistencies right there. Of course, Ubaldo giving up that 2-run home run, but 3 walks in that last inning.
Cabrera right to Donaldson. He was playing tight, and on 1 pitch, 1 down. He was trying to slap it by Donaldson, but he hit it right at him.
Good attempt right there. Play by Donaldson. He's putting the glove down. Basically just went right in it.
Well, Diaz comes up, and the Orioles are looking for his bat to heat up again. He got off to a real good start, but he's now 0 for 13 on the trip and just 2 for his last 21. He is 0 for 2 tonight. Key man in that leadoff spot. Strike at the knees. Each team with a 2-run home run and a 2-2 game. Bunt, but it goes foul. Diaz are down in the count, 0-2.
Any battle, stay short. Let Sanchez supply the power. Just take the bat head to the baseball. He's made mistakes here with 2 strikes on hitters. And Martin's kind of been upset, leaving breaking balls up.
As he did there.
Yeah. A lot of inconsistencies with the off-speed pitches.
One out, nobody on. 2-2 game. Bounce to first. Right there is Smoke. He'll go to the bag unassisted. And 2 quick outs. Well, when the Orioles win, everybody wins. When the Orioles win and score 5 or more runs, you'll get 50% off regular menu pricing online orders at papajohns.com by entering the promo code Orioles5. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's, valid at participating Baltimore area Papa John's. Six in a row retired by Aaron Sanchez since the 2-out walk to Jones in the 3rd. And here's Paredes, foul tip held by Martin. The home run hit by Paredes, 3rd allowed by Sanchez on the year, and all 3 have been hit by Orioles. Diaza, Davis, and now Paredes.
Paredes has come up with some big hits for the Orioles the last 2 seasons. Look at the team out of spring training. We went on the DL, and when he came back, he's red hot here. Blasting the fastball away out over the left center field fence.
Strike 3 called. Fastball tailed in. What a quick inning for Aaron Sanchez, who's retired the side in order. Back-to-back innings. Mid-5th, tied at 2. Destination for culinary adventure, from fresh local seafood to an eclectic array of world-class cuisine. Savor Sarasota Restaurant Week, June 1st to the 14th, now celebrating its 10th year. Visit savorsarasota.com. St. Armand's Circle, Mike Bordick's favorite place in Sarasota, with all of the restaurant choices there. Ubaldo got out of a big jam in the 4th. He walked 3 batters in the inning. The double play ball really helped him out. Here's Reyes leading off. A low ball 1.
You really should see Ubaldo getting back to that 2-seam fastball. Attempt to get ahead of these hitters. When he fell behind that last inning, he got into some serious problems right there. Good job to get back into the count. Good movement on that fastball. So many right-handed hitters give up on that 2-seamer. It starts so far on the left-handed hitter's batter's box and works its way back over.
Showed bunt, got a piece of it right into the glove of Caleb. 1-2 on Reyes.
Tough trying to bunt that split finger.
Foul tip, got a piece of Caleb. Reyes stays alive.
And Reyes gets into that defensive mode when he falls behind, and he knows he's got to protect. And they're just getting a piece of the ball, but the ball ends up kicking up and getting a piece of Caleb, and not a friendly spot. I guess the good news is Caleb already had a baby. Had a baby this spring.
And the 1-2 pitch outside. Ubaldo 5 strikeouts through 3 innings. 3 walks, all in the 4th. That ball's line to left center field. It's going to fall for a hit. Good job there by Jose Reyes. Got ahead, stayed alive on the foul tip, and then singles for a leadoff hit. Let's get a look at our PNC minor league report, and Chris Parmalee putting together a good early part to his year at AAA Norfolk.
He sure is. Brought in for some experience, depth. Former first-round pick with the Minnesota Twins. First 13 games with Norfolk, 314, a couple home runs, 5 doubles, a 12 RBI, and that 926 OPS. You know, this guy can really pick it at first base. He also plays outfield as well. I think he was a really big pickup. Had a great spring for the Orioles, and nice to see him get off to a good start in AAA.
So now you have the threat of Reyes stealing. He is not the stolen base threat he was as a younger player with the Mets, where one year he stole 78 bases, but he still can steal a base. He is 2 for 2 on the year. Devin Travis at the plate. Line drive down the line and foul. Oh, was that a break for the Orioles? Snyder was well over towards the gap. That easily would have scored a run.
Just foul, hooking down that left field line, that 2-seam fastball riding in, and fortunately for Ubaldo and the Orioles, it did go foul. Good speed on the bases right now. Could have been trouble.
Reyes extended his lead by a step. He had a foot on the carpet. And Ubaldo trying to vary his cadence to the plate there, so Reyes can't time his move. And a little bit low.
Ubaldo would love to have that pitch. I mean, if the umpire's calling the low strike for Ubaldo, he can pound the bottom of the zone with the 2-seamer. Gets so much better action when it's down. Take a look at the pitch track. He caught the bottom of the box.
Time requested at the plate just as Ubaldo was about to deliver. It happens every game. Hitter gets impatient with the pitcher holding the runner and requests time, and the umpire automatically grants it.
Yeah, well, Ubaldo trying to vary his holds with Reyes at first base, mix it up a little bit. It's smart for a hitter if he's standing in the box too long to try to get a timeout called. Now, typically you'll see the hitter put his hand up, but Travis was actually screaming timeout. Umpire granted it.
Center field, chasing Jones. Back he goes. He looks up, and that ball is gone. Devin Travis stays red hot, and the Blue Jays have taken the lead at 4-2. So Reyes on at first, distracting Ubaldo a bit, and Travis got a pitch to hit, and he didn't miss it.
Well, he's not missing a lot of balls right now in the early going of the season. Really swinging a hot bat. And this, he gets the hanging breaking ball up and out over. Does what you're supposed to do with a mistake. Straightaway center, 2-run shot.
Still nobody out, and Donaldson fouls it off, so the home run continues to hurt the Orioles. 2 2-run home runs in this game. 17 home runs allowed by the Orioles, third most in the American League. Just outside. So 7 solos, now 8 2-run homers, 1 3-run, 1 grand slam. And in each of the last 2 innings, leadoff man got on, followed by a 2-run homer. Off speed as Donaldson swings through it.
Nice pitch there. Waldo really been mixing it up here in the game. Still pretty true. 64% fastballs. And you see mixing up the breaking ball and the split finger.
Just off the plate. And Wallace looking on. There's a somewhat concerned look on his face. Chop towards short. Machado will cut in front. Manny has the better angle. He gets Donaldson for the first out of the inning. Attention O's fans, Masson wants to upgrade your fan cave. That's right. Show us how you're backing the Birds while the team is on the road by tagging your tweets using the hashtag #OsCouchCam to be automatically entered to win autographed memorabilia. Follow @Masson Orioles on Twitter for more information. Edwin Encarnacion drew a leadoff walk in the fourth, scored on the home run by Smoke. There's a strike on the outside corner. Encarnacion nodding yes in agreement.
Good pitch, though. Good fastball. Started as a ball. Came back over to catch the outside corner. Quality first strike. That's what you do. You get ahead and then you try to expand right there. That fastball very similar, maybe just an inch or two outside.
Two and one on Encarnacion. Swing and a miss. Off speed pitch that broke away from the swing.
Yeah, Encarnacion, look, it hurt him a little bit when he took that cut on the slider.
A little bit low.
He's pitching him tough. He's making some quality pitches here. Take a look at the pitch track. Everything down and away. He's mixed in the fastball, split finger, and the slider throughout this at bat.
Baldo shook him off 4 times. See what he throws on 3-2. Bounce to short. Big hop for Cabrera. And 2 down in the Toronto 5th inning.
That was really well executed right there by Baldo and Caleb Joseph. I mean, nice grouping of pitches, mixing them all up. Those are the go-to two-seam fastball. Confidence in that pitch. Seems like when he has that good command of that two-seamer, he could throw it any time and roll ground balls all night.
All right, now as a hitter, when you see a pitcher shake off a catcher 4 times, are you thinking, how many pitches does this guy have?
Right.
Or I think he's trying to get in my head.
Well, you think both, actually. To be honest with you, you try not to think of anything. I know when I was hitting, if I saw a pitcher shake that much, I was like, are you kidding me? What the heck is he going to throw me right here? And typically it would be a fastball, but you know, a lot of times catchers do that to get a hitter to think. But Caleb was actually putting down different pitches, and Ubaldo wanted to go to that two-seamer away.
Smoke homered his last at bat to tie the game. Jays have now taken the lead, back-to-back innings with 2-run home runs for Toronto. Sharply hit foul past Tim Leeper, the first base coach. A 2-2. Ubaldo a strike away from getting out of the inning.
You see the pitch count up over 100 right now. 101 pitches thrown by Ubaldo.
In the last 3 innings, he's had the labor. And he got him. So Smoke goes down on strikes, and that ends it, but not before Devin Travis. 2-run home run to straightaway center field. Jays now have the lead as we head to the 6th. online, MLB.com/franchise4, and vote for their favorite players for every organization. The franchise 4 impactful players who best represent each major league franchise. Here are the current leaders in the Orioles franchise history. Cal is running first, Brooks second, Jim Palmer now third, Frank Robinson fourth. Now you also can write in. Paul Blair is eligible, Dave McNally, Eddie Murray, and Boog Powell. So we encourage you to do so and have some fun with that. This is a month-long vote. The first vote was released, and already 11.8 million votes have been cast. So have fun with that and vote for who you believe is the franchise Oriole and the franchise 4 who will make that final vote.
Well, I think those are the top 4 right there. I mean, some unbelievable Hall of Fame careers for all of them.
Chris Davis leads off. Birds now down by 2 as we go to the 6th. 7 in a row retired by Sanchez. Ouch. Did it hit him? Sounded like it did.
I don't know how it didn't. Real sharp breaking ball there down at the feet. Chris Davis.
I don't know. He must want to hit.
Yeah, he could have sold it a little better if he wanted.
Yell, ow!
Right? Well, he does have 2 home runs off Sanchez, so he might want to stay in there and get on another one. Try to get the Orioles a little bit closer here.
Jones and Snyder will follow. Upstairs, ball 3. Sanchez has walked 5. He has struck out 3, and even with those 5 walks, pretty good pitch count, just 69 through 5 innings, and there's a leadoff walk. So we'll see if the Orioles can take advantage of that, as the Blue Jays have done. Well, on Monday, the Orioles will host the Chicago White Sox. That's the beginning of a 3-game series. And good seats still remain for each night, including Tuesday night, which is Ollie's Bargain Night, presented by Ollie's Bargain Outlet. All upper reserve seats are just $10 when purchased in advance. So get your Birdland summer started. Come out and join us at the ballpark. For your tickets, Oriole.com or 888-848-BIRD. Here's public enemy number 1 in Toronto. The boos for Adam Jones as he walks to the plate. Upstairs 1-0. Adam was robbed of a base hit on a diving grab by Smoke, the first baseman, who was playing wide of the bag, and that turned into a double play to end the first. He then walked in the third. Late on the fastball, 1-1.
Pretty good cut though, 95. Riding in on Adam Jones, and he's had great plate coverage here beginning of this season, getting the balls pretty easily on the inner third and able to cover the outside corner as well.
Line to center field. There's Pompey, and it hangs up for him. So Adam has hit 2 laser beam line drives in this game and does not have a hit.
Well, it seems like every out he makes is a bullet at somebody. Yesterday's ball game, he was robbed by Pilar. There, the bullet to Pompey.
Travis Snyder now. 1 on and 1 out. Outside ball 1. There's Roberto Osuna getting loose for Toronto. One of the 4 right-handers out there. Snyder 0 for 2. He's got a 5-game hitting streak going. In the dirt, gets away from Martin, and Chris Davis will advance. Martin didn't know where it was. So that's a break for the Orioles. They get a runner in the scoring position, and it takes away the ground ball double play possibility.
Martin, the veteran catcher, has had a hard time here handling this young staff. A couple good veterans in Burley and R.A. Dickey, but Sanchez, one of the younger pitchers, and his command has been a little bit inconsistent. They're bouncing one. He tried to keep in front, but now Davis down in scoring position.
2-0 on Snyder. Ball 3, good take.
See Snyder's numbers with runners in scoring position at 4 for 8, the homer, 6 RBI. So off to a great start offensively for this team.
Taken all the way, 3-1. And there's a ball. So 2 on now. Tying runs are on. That is the 7th walk issued by Aaron Sanchez.
Trouble commanding that, harnessing that live fastball, moving all over the place. Consistent with the breaking pitches. Martin's going to go out and settle him down a little bit. Maybe give that bullpen
stall
a little more time to get warm.
And here comes John Gibbons, and that'll do it for Aaron Sanchez. So he leaves with a chance to win, and he cannot lose. The tying runs are on, but the go-ahead run is at the plate. So Gibbons goes as far as he can with his 22-year-old rookie starter who walked 7 but exits with a lead. So some effective pitching to get out of jams, helped out early by a couple of double plays. So 2 on, 1 out. Osuna comes on. Machado set the bat in the 6th.
Orioles only able to get to him for 2 hits, but the 7 walks led to the early exit, 4 punch-outs, and now it's time for the AT&T call to the pen. Our AT&T proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles, AT&T mobilizing your world. Well, Osuna now in the ball game, and this guy is doing pretty good. Just 20 years old.
Machado, first ball swinging, fouls it back.
Take a look at his pitch arsenal. Fastball 61% of the time, low to mid 90s with that. The breaking ball, slider, and the change. Pretty good. Good arm speed, very good arm sell. Been in 6 games, 8 innings of work with nothing on the board for earned run average.
Ooh, outside corner called strike.
John Gibbons really loved his poise and demeanor in spring training. He earns a spot, and he has been as solid as anyone in this Blue Jays bullpen.
In the dirt, blocked by Martin. Well, to give you an idea of the rapid rise of Roberto Osuna, last year he pitched for 2 teams, the Gulf Coast Blue Jays and then at Dunedin in the Florida State League. And here he is in the bullpen, 6 scoreless appearances in the major leagues at the age of 20. 1-2 on Manny, 2 on and 1 out. Foul back. Kevin Gausman in the Oriole pen. Ubaldo's at 102 pitches through 5. Looks like his night is done. Orioles down by a pair here. Each team with the long ball. The Jays have a pair of 2-run home runs. The Orioles 1 2-run home run from Paredes. Inside, 2-2.
It's a good fastball, 95 miles an hour.
Davis and Snyder. Snyder getting a good lead, not being held. 2-2 on Machado. Foul back, protecting the outside corner. Mike DeMuro's been calling that all night, and Manny didn't want to take a chance.
Working it in and out. Martin calling the fastball in off the plate, try to open up that outside corner. That's where you want to put it. Manny Machado, nice job. Keep the at-bat alive.
7th pitch of this at-bat. Outside ball 3. It bounced. Nice play by Russell Martin.
Held on to the changeup just a little bit too long. Nice backhanded pick there by Martin.
All right, so we'll see here. Will Buck risk sending the runners, or will he play it tight here in the 6th inning in a 2-run game? They do not go, and it's poked to right field. There's a base hit for Machado. Bobby Dickerson will hold Davis at third. Getting to the ball quickly was Pilar. What an at-bat for Manny Machado. 8 pitches, and he singles to right field. They were working him away, and he went with it. So the bases are loaded. Still only 1 down.
Now look at him stay on this fastball, probably just off the plate, but with 2 strikes, you can't take the chance, and he just drops the bat head on it. Beautiful piece of hitting right there with 2 strikes, and Orioles in a good position now. The bases loaded.
Tying run is in scoring position at second. There's Davis at third. There's Snyder, the tying run. And now Manny, the go-ahead run at first, not being held. There's Ryan Flaherty. High pop, shallow left. Probably not deep enough. And Reyes calls and makes the catch for the 2nd out. That is a big, big out for Toronto. Flaherty, first ball swinging, pops up the fastball.
One thing Ryan's been good about is working at bats. Here maybe a little too over aggressive. He did get a pitch up in the zone. Not the outcome he wanted, though.
So it's up to Caleb Joseph. Caleb walked and scored in the 3rd, flied out in the 4th. He's got a 7-game hitting streak working. Inside, ball 1. I've been very impressed with the calmness of Caleb Joseph at the plate. Not to suggest that he thinks, well, I belong here, but he's comfortable being part of this team and being in the big leagues.
Yeah, he's not jumpy. It's something that all hitters, I think, work on, but especially young hitters go through some challenges. Take a look at Caleb Joseph's power zone. Likes that ball up middle. Down and in he can get to as well, but I'll tell you, when he's quiet in the box like he is right now, he can cover just about anything.
He didn't like that call. He thought it was outside. Doesn't like that call either. And it's 1-2.
Changeup comes back over, catch the outside corner.
Although that time he may have been fooled by the pitch more so than the DeMuro call. So 1-2 the count, bases loaded, 2 down. Big chance for the O's here in the 6th. Outside, 2-2. Osuna tried to get in the chase, and Caleb laid off. And he got it. Blows a fastball by him at 97. So the Orioles with a big, big chance come up empty. Bases loaded with 1 down and cannot score.
Sanchez to get the Orioles on the board. Early 2-0 lead, and Brady staying red hot, but Smoke answers back. He goes long for 2 as well off the top of the wall to tie the game up. And the youngster Devin Travis, who's been hot here in the first 2 weeks of the season, he joins in with a 2-run bomb to straightaway center. Give the Jays a 4-2 lead. Remember, Geico 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote. Here's a look at Ubaldo's line. 5 innings of work, 6 hits given up. Look at his walks at 3 and 6 punch outs, and Blue Jays lineup really made him work for 102 pitches. Kevin Gausman now in the ball game. This is the arsenal. Power fastball used at 70% of the time. Breaking ball, still working on that slider. Real good changeup though. Trying to bring that earned run average down. It's at 6.75 right now. Looked good pitching in Boston, so you hope he's about ready to take off. Kevin Gausman, we know, I mean, he can rush that fastball up there in the mid to high 90s.
Facing Russell Martin leading off in the 6th. Fastballs wide of the plate. And Kevin with this new style of pitching as he comes into the game. Since he's a reliever, he pitches from the stretch even with no one on base. So there's a consistency to his follow through.
It's good. Chris Tillman kind of adopted that just to smooth out delivery, make it more repeatable.
98 but low. Kevin last pitch on Sunday, 2 scoreless innings in the Orioles win at Fenway Park. He had allowed runs in his first 4 innings. First 4 appearances. 6 earned runs total now in 8 innings of work. Line drive off the glove of Cabrera in the shallow left field. Hard hit ball that Cabrera couldn't handle. The leadoff man is on for the Jays again. 4th straight inning they put the leadoff man on.
Fall behind, and it really doesn't matter how hard you throw. Big league hitters can get on a fastball. This one about 98, and he's able to turn on it. A little top spin. You don't know what it's going to do on this new turf. All the little pieces of rubber underneath. Kicks up. Cabrera can't flag it down.
Well, here's Dalton Pompey, and again the Orioles will have to look for the bunt. Jays have the lead. They're looking for insurance now as we get to the later part of this game. Pompey takes low, and Gausman falls behind another batter. Pompey walked his last at bat. He struck out in the 2nd. Infield looking for a ground ball to turn 2. Russell Martin runs, pitches high, throw to 2nd. He is out. Perfect throw from Caleb Joseph.
Got a good pitch to handle right there. Change up in the zone. And talked about Martin's speed, stolen bases. He looks in. It's too late. Caleb gets that ball down there in a hurry. See it up. Quick feet. Snap throw. Cabrera put the glove down in front of the base.
So that erases the base runner. Close play there. Nice tag by Cabrera. That ball's ripped to the corner. Alejandro Diaz are running it down. They'll play the carom. Heading to 2nd is Pompey. He can fly, and he makes it easily with a double. So the caught stealing hurts the Blue Jays. They erase the base runner. Pompey with a double, so he's at 2nd.
Take a look. He gets the fastball out. It's down, but he goes and gets it. Gets into the legs. It's a bat head on it. He's having himself a pretty good series. Take a look at the wheels, just cruising on into 2nd base. He gets to 2nd base and kind of makes that face like he might have missed a hit and run on that last pitch. That's why Martin got thrown out.
Well, it didn't make sense that Martin, the catcher, would be running on a straight steal, even though we mentioned earlier he does have good speed for a catcher. But when you're leading 4-2 and you have a chance possibly for a big inning, it's not the spot you normally see your catcher try to steal.
Right, especially with the hole open over there.
Foul off the bat of Pilar. Ball on a strike on him. Singled, stole a base in the 3rd, then bounced into a double play in the 4th. That double play got Ubaldo out of a big jam. 2 runs in, 2 on, and none out. And Pilar bounced into a double play. Went too far, couldn't check his swing. Mike DeMuro said he went. Fooled by the breaking pitch in the dirt.
Nice breaking ball, too. Thrown hard, down in the zone. Good block by Caleb. Here's the call.
Pilar pointed the first. He was hoping they'd ask for an appeal because you never know what the first base umpire is going to say, but Mike DeMuro called it himself. So Gausman gets ahead 1-2. He went too far again on the check swing. Pilar arguing with Mike DeMuro. Why don't you ask the umpire at first?
Maybe DeMuro said, wow, that was a strike. Maybe I'll just call him on the check swing. Let's take a look here. Oh, yeah, he did.
Well, he did go.
Way around. Look at the bat head. Oh, yeah, way out.
If he had made contact, that would have gone to the gap.
Right.
So a big out for Gausman, 2 down now. Here's Ryan Goins, the number 9 batter. Breaking ball for a strike. Goins is 0 for 2 tonight after getting 2 hits and driving in 3 last night. Looked like the split change there.
Yeah, nasty pitch. Showing some pretty good confidence in his off-speed pitches here. That's where you want to put it. That Vulcan grip changeup he throws, like a split finger action down in the bottom of the zone.
0-2 on Ryan Goins. And he struck him out. Good fastball, 99 miles an hour. So the Blue Jays get 2 hits. The caught stealing huge in the inning, and Toronto doesn't score. We head to the 7th. Birds come to bat, down by 2.
Osuna, he gets Caleb Joseph swinging on the 97-mile-an-hour fastball. A great opportunity for the Orioles to get back in this game, but right now Blue Jays holding on to that 4-2 lead, and Osuna back out on the hill.
Everett Cabrera leads off in the 7th, takes ball 1. Blue Jays suspicious of a possible bunt here. Everett in the number 9 spot tonight is 0 for 2. Right to Smoke. He's 0 for 3 with 3 groundouts and 1 away. Well, the Birds begin a key 3-game weekend series with Tampa Bay on Friday, May 1st at Oriole Park. And on Sunday, May 3rd, the first 10,000 female fans 15 and over will receive an Orioles wristlet presented by PNC Bank. Now, good seats are still available. For tickets, visit Orioles.com or call 888-848-BIRD. For a complete schedule of upcoming promotions and the special giveaway dates, go to Orioles.com/promotions.
This youngster Osuna, just 20 years old. Pretty good mix of power fastball, good changeup, some nice off-speed pitches.
Foul knocked off the mask of Russell Martin, and it's 0-2. That's Cecil, left-hander, getting loose. Fights it off to stay alive. Diaz, at this point, he'd love a broken bat hit. He is 0 for 3. He is 0 for 14 on the trip, and just 2 for his last 22 after getting off to such a real fine start. There's a bloop. There's a flare, and it falls in for a base hit, and he will take it. Goins over, bobbles it, and that will allow Diaz to get to second base.
There you go. You were talking about it. He'll take anything. Well, here, sometimes good hitters get jammed. He flares this one. Take a look at the fastball inside. Takes it off the knuckles, but just over Donaldson's head. It's spinning away. Now Goins signed as a shortstop. He's played second base over Boogie in there, but Diaz keeping the head up and the eyes on the baseball, able to trot into second base on the bobble.
So a single and an error puts a runner in scoring position for Jimmy Paredes, one of the hotter hitters on the team. Bloop to center field. Pompey, a long run in. He's going to get there. So another Oriole first ball hitting, and 2 men are down. Flaherty, with the bases loaded, swung at the first pitch in the 6th that he saw and then popped it up weakly to short. And Paredes, with a runner at second and 1 down, swings at the first pitch and pops it up weakly to center field. So 2 down. Here's Chris Davis. Fouled off, 0-1.
Osuna is aggressive in the zone. Seems like with all of his pitches, pretty good command. 97-mile-an-hour fastball right there. You talk about how polished can a young kid be. Well, a lot of his experience came from pitching in the Mexican League. Started pitching there at just 16 years of age. A very competitive league in Mexico.
Diaz takes off. The throw to third. He is out. And what is Diaz thinking? You're down by 2 in the 7th. You got one of the top RBI men on the team, and you run yourself into an out to end the inning. So the base hit, the error, and none left as the Orioles run themselves out of the inning. 7th inning stretch. Blue Jays lead it 4-2. fantasy baseball for free at DraftKings.com. You can enter the promo code TRIPLEPLAY for a free entry. And by Coons.com. When you're talking cars, you're talking Coons. CN Tower in downtown Toronto, 4-2 game as we go to the bottom of the 7th. And Alejandro Diaz had tried to steal third. Don't know why, and he was gunned down to end the inning. Reyes, first ball swinging, pops it up wide at first. There's Chris Davis. Gausman gets an out on one pitch. And Mike, with one down, you might understand it. That Diaz might be trying to get to third base where he can score on a fly ball, but you're down by 2 runs, you're running out of outs, and you're already in scoring position with good speed. Yeah, well, we've seen some base running mistakes here on this road trip that have really cost the Orioles. And that one, you know, Buck Showalter over there probably shaking his head. You better be sure you can make it. You do not want to make that third out at third base, especially down by 2, and Chris Davis at the plate. Travis 3 for 3 on the night, including the go-ahead 2-run home run in the 5th. Machado to his left, easily gloves, and then fires with that strong arm. And 2 men down here in the 7th. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Orioles and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Orioles. So 2 quick outs recorded by Gausman. Here is Josh Donaldson. Ball inside. Of course, this is the ballpark where Gausman made his major league debut. Ball 2. Just missing in there. A couple good fastballs on the inside corner, just off the plate. So Ubaldo Jimenez goes 5. This is Gausman's 2nd inning of work. Strike on the corner, and the Orioles string continues now for the starters. It is 7 consecutive starts of less than 6 innings. And it was the pitch count that got Ubaldo 102 pitches in 5 innings. He threw 73 pitches in his last 3 innings of work. The Blue Jays really made him work as you look at Brett Cecil and Miguel Castro out in the Blue Jays bullpen. That rough 4th inning where just lost the command, really had to battle to get out of that inning. Did get the good double play to help him out, but I'll tell you what, 5 innings is better than 3. So you take away you can get, and I think, you know, just the ability to keep your team in the game. Right now you're obviously hoping the Orioles offense will pick it up a little bit. They have had some opportunities in this game. Donaldson really battling here, holding it 2-2. And he got him. Change up in the dirt. Caleb Joseph will tag him out. No, he doesn't have to. Donaldson just walked away out of the batter's box. So a 3-up, 3-down inning. We'll head to the 8th. Good game. Orioles come to bat, down by a couple. action. Chris Tillman will take them out against Drew Hutchison in the series finale. Our coverage on MASN 2 begins at 6:30 with those extra presented by Jeep. And then game coverage at 7 o'clock. We've got all the access you need right here on MASN.
Take a look at tomorrow's starters. Chris Tillman hoping that tomorrow's game means a split. Got 2 wins on the season. He'd like to lower that earned run average. And Drew Hutchison off to a very slow start. 7.20 earned run average, so he's looking for a little bit more consistency as well. Brett Cecil now into the ball game. His pitch arsenal, good mix. Fastball 51% of the time in the low 90s. A breaking ball, a good slider, and curve. Of course, the change as well. His earned run average up to 6.23 in just 4 1/3 innings of work.
Left-handers are 3 for 5 against them on the young season. Here's a strike. Of course, Brett Cecil is a Dunkirk, Maryland native. Went to DeMatha High School and then the University of Maryland at College Park. Career Blue Jay, drafted in the first round of 2007 by Toronto. Ooh, too tight, nearly hit him.
Cecil, another good year last year back into this Blue Jays bullpen. Manager John Gibbons not scared to use him in those high leverage type situations, but this spring he had some setbacks with his arm. There was some shoulder inflammation, so he really didn't get going until the end of spring training.
Davis is just 2 for 13 against him. Davis was at bat in the 7th when Diaz was caught trying to steal to end the inning. 2-2 on him. Bounce to first. There's Smoke, who's had a busy night. And the all-important first out here in the 8th. In 6 of the 8 innings tonight, the Blue Jays have retired the Orioles' first batter. More boos for Adam Jones. He was just 5 for 25 against Cecil.
Once again with some good at bats in this ball game. He squared up a couple balls. Drew a walk in the 3rd inning. Steve Pearce getting loose on deck.
Ball 2. Adam is 0 for 2, and each time he hit a laser beam line drive that was caught. Ball 3. Adam being very patient here. Cecil can't find the strike zone.
Typically the real good command, especially with his breaking balls, losing some up in the zone right now, falling behind Adam.
Taken all the way. Darren O'Day getting loose for the O's. Strange reverse splits for Cecil. Mentioned lefties 3 for 5 against them, but righties have gone only 2 for 12. Popped up, center of the diamond. Smoke is calling, and he's got it for the out. So Jones got ahead 3-0. Cecil gets him anyway, and 2 men are down. And now Steve Pearce will pinch hit for Travis Snyder to get the right-handed bat up there. And here comes John Gibbons walking slowly to the mound. And we're going to get a pitching change, so Cecil will go 2/3 of an inning. So Pearce will bat, pitching change. The Orioles batting 2 outs, none on in the 8th.
Old arm. A lot of young players on this Blue Jays team, but he has a power fastball. Likes it 75% of the time. He can rush it up there in the high 90s. Breaking ball, a little slider. Inconsistencies with that slider. Changeup, pretty good arm. So it's such a very young pitcher. Giving up 1 earned run in his 7 1/3 innings of work for that low earned run average of 1-2-3. 5 punch outs, 3 walks on the young year for Castro.
Steve Pearce pinch hitting for Snyder. Breaking ball way outside. Pearce has been scuffling. He is 2 for 14 on the trip, and he is in a 4 for 38 drought. Center field chasing Pompey. He's going to get to it, and he runs it down for the out. So the Orioles go 3 up, 3 down in the 8th, and the side is retired. Darren O'Day coming on. We'll head to the bottom of the 8th.
Such a good moment for the Orioles. Power hitter Chris Davis up, of course, left side, so Martin gets a good look at him. Diaza, the stolen base. It's not 1 out, though. 2 outs to make it 3, and then the threat actually tie this game up. So another base running miscue by the Orioles, and it's really cost them here recently. And new pitcher in, Darren O'Day. Take a look at his offerings. 51% fastball, the sinking fastball, and the rising fastball. The slider is his breaking ball, using it 49% of the time. 1.29 earned run average in his 6 games. 7 punch outs, just the 1 walk for Darren O'Day.
Edwin Encarnacion will lead off for Toronto in the 8th. O'Day's job is to keep this a 2-run game. Birds will have Machado, Flaherty, and Joseph due in the 9th. Pierce stays in the game in left field after pinch hitting for Snyder. O'Day is off to a good start for the Orioles, as Mike just mentioned the overall numbers. He's been in 6 games, and 5 of those 6 have been scoreless, including the last 3. Encarnacion is 1 for 10 against O'Day in their head-to-head matches. Breaking ball, tried to time it and pulls it foul.
It's so hard to get that slider out in play. Takes so much off that pitch, and it looks like it's in the zone for a second, and then it sweeps typically off the plate and stayed on that inner third. The reason he was able to get the bat head on it. Really all you can do there is pull it foul.
Bounce to third, Machado deep. There's plenty of time with Encarnacion running, and guns him down. The longest throw a third baseman can make, and 1 away. Well, you can follow the Orioles all season with MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com at bat for your smartphone or tablet. Here's Justin Smoak. 1 out of 3, but that one a 2-run home run in the 4th off Ubaldo that tied the game. Bounce against the shift. Machado very deep. The throw across, not in time. Davis can't scoop it. So Smoak is on. Manny knew he had to hurry that throw. Smoak busted it out of the box, and Davis can't hold it.
Nice play by Manny. The strong arm sinking down there. Chris Davis, it gets in the glove, but can't quite stay. Whips out of the top end there.
And they're going to give Manny Machado an error, Mike, on the throw, so yet another error committed by the Orioles.
Yeah, tough error right there for Manny.
They had him played perfectly, just that Machado was so deep he couldn't get the throw across. So here's Martin. Strike on the corner with the breaking ball. Martin is 0 for 6 against Darren O'Day. In this game, he's 1 out of 3. There are the numbers against Darren. Martin doesn't like the ball tight.
No, he makes some noises, doesn't he? In his first at bat, there was a fastball that I didn't think it was that close to him, but he made it sound like it was right on him.
Late on the swing at 87.
Such an effective pitch for Darren O'Day, and it has been the success he's had with the Baltimore Orioles, that rising fastball. He's had so many swing throughs with that pitch. It's been a strikeout pitch for him, and something that a lot of hitters aren't used to. They try to get that sinker up. That is the key off submarine pitchers. Try to get them elevated. When they see it up, it just takes off up and out of the strike zone.
Well, 1-2 the count. Weak fly ball off the end of the bat. Diaz charging in on it. Has it for the out and 2 men down. For the Orioles in the 9th, Machado, Flaherty, and Joseph Dew. Delman Young, a possible home run threat, available off the bench. And here's Dalton Pompey, another of the young Blue Jays. Pompey just 22, he's a rookie. And there's Delman with his bat. Punt, third base side. It's a beauty. O'Day fires, not in time. You are going to see more and more of that, especially with these Jays as they learn how to take advantage of it. This turf is slow and slower.
Yeah, a nice bunt here by Pompey, and see, as soon as it hits the turf, it just kind of dies right there. The second hop almost bites on the turf. Allows Pompey to get down there. Pretty nice play by Darren O'Day bouncing off the mound, but you're exactly right. There are a lot of teams that have an advantage with their home field, and the more chances they get on this field, they're going to understand what it does, and with the speed that they have, there are going to be opportunities to get on by way of bunt.
So a 2 down, 2 on, and here is Kevin Pillar. Breaking ball right in there for a strike. O'Day is well rested. He last worked on Saturday. Scoreless inning at Boston in an Oriole win. Check swing of the breaking ball. He was fooled and fouls it off. right to the security guard.
Darren O'Day he features against righties pretty much the same. Mixes it up very well, a little more breaking balls, and he has the ability to throw that slider inside to the righties or sweep it off that outside corner.
So hit 0-2. Pop fly, shallow right. Diaz is there. And he puts it away for the out. So an error, a bunt single, but the Blue Jays strand 2. Here we go. Ninth inning coming up. Wolvie C. Delman. Birds are down by 2. Now at southwest.com and by Ocean City, Maryland. Put your vacation days to good use in Ocean City, Maryland. Book now at ococean.com. Well, the ferry out on Lake Ontario. Perhaps a dinner cruise. Scott Coolball talking to Diaz, who has a base hit on a bloop in this game, 1 for 4. And Miguel Castro, who came on for the final out in the 8th, is gunning for a 4-out save. Manny Machado to lead off. Outside ball 1. If you're the Orioles, what you'd love to see here is for the leadoff man to get on and increase the pressure on Castro with the tying run immediately at the plate. Fouled off just below us.
Yeah, try to get some pressure on Castro, just 20 years of age, and last season he only pitched an A ball, got up to high A, but this spring he was so impressive. Good slider right there. John Gibbons went with the best players coming out of spring. There were a lot of guys with major league experience sent down to get to these young arms.
Yeah, 2 20-year-olds in this game, both A-ball pitchers a year ago. A little low, good eye by Manny, ball 3. Manny is 1 out of 2 plus a walk. Hard hit ball, base hit down the line. And that hits to the corner. Machado's going to make the turn. He'll head to second. The ball is grabbed by a fan out there. Manny would have had 2 anyway, but the way Goins played that ball earlier, you never know. So Machado clapping to the bench saying, come on, let's go.
Well, nice piece of hitting right there by Manny Machado, getting on the 2-seam fastball, 96 miles an hour. Pulling that down the left field line. Whew, that's a quick bat right there. Rolling down, and then that fan picks it up, gets booed, and then throws it back on the field. You see how much the ball slows down out here on the turf.
And if that ball gets by, who knows? Here's Flaherty. Chops it foul. Again, first ball hitting. Orioles are 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Early in the game in the first and second, the Blue Jays were helped out by double plays that helped erase a couple of walks. Good take. Wow. 97.
Yes, it was. Got to get a look at him. They haven't seen a lot of Castro.
Off speed. 1 and 2 on Ryan.
Pretty impressive changeup right there from Castro. 97-mile-an-hour fastball to an 86-mile-an-hour changeup. Pretty much identical arm action. You see the location of those pitches down in the zone. So good spot. Showing a little bit of poise here in a tough situation.
Tried it again. Missed outside. 2 and 2.
Definitely aware that Ryan Flaherty can get on a fastball no matter how hard it is. So mixing in some changeups.
Good eye. Ball 3. So the first 2 hitters each work it to 3 and 2.
Great patience here from Ryan Flaherty. There's 3 nasty changeups that he's laid off of. Look at the pitch track. Tough pitches down and away, down in the zone.
And he walked him. So the tying runs are on with nobody down. Flaherty was down 1 and 2, and he works the walk.
Great AB right there. Ryan Flaherty has been seeing the ball very well, keeping that head still, not even flinching on those pitches.
So he throws 97, and he tried to trick him with off-speed stuff, and the result was a walk. Caleb is 0 for 2. He's got his 7-game hitting streak on the line. Right on that, but he fouled it back. The Blue Jays are expecting a bunt. Doesn't look as if Buck's going to play for a tie on the road.
No, you typically don't do that, but see the action in the Blue Jays bullpen with Liam Hendricks and Aaron Loop. Martin out there to settle down his young pitcher. The high fastball that Caleb Joseph put a good pass on, fouling it straight back.
Caleb has walked and scored. He is 0 for 2. Down and away. Would you call that an easy 97?
I would say that is easy cheese right there. It comes out of his hand nice. Not a lot of effort. There is fire coming out of there. 96, 97 miles an hour.
Oh, borderline pitch.
Brought it back a little bit. The two-seamer, 97 miles an hour. Boy, not a lot you can do with that. Perfectly located. Might have caught that front edge of home plate.
That pitch looked better. It's called a ball. Caleb and I have been frozen by that breaking ball.
And that three-quarter action can lock some hitters up on that slider. A little up in the zone on the pitch track. It says it's all in the box. And Martin kind of jumped up a little bit too. That might have helped Caleb get that call.
Called strike 3. Went back to it again. Caleb frozen. So 1 down here in the 9th.
So back-to-back sliders. That one down in the zone. A good pitch. Hey, Caleb.
So here is Delman Young to pinch hit for Everett Cabrera, representing the go-ahead run at the plate. Tying runs are on. Now 1 down. Double play ball. Reyes the second. Back to first. Travis. Double play ends the inning. And there's your ball game. So the Orioles get the tying runs on with none down. A called strike 3 and a double play ball. And the Blue Jays have won the first 2 games in this series. And the Orioles have now lost 3 in a row and are 2 and 4 through the first 6 games of this 7-game road trip. Final score here in Toronto, Blue Jays 4, Orioles 2.